G Block where the fire broke out 25 years ago. Stuart, some incredible personal, vivid memories there. And you were playing, as we said, in that game, and your dad was in the stand that day as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I had 9 or 10 people in my family at the game, and I was one of the fortunate ones. Although my dad, ended up getting burnt and had skin grafts, he managed to get out in the end. So, but it was obviously a horrendous day. I mean, my dad was in the middle of the stand, and he tried to get out of the back where he couldn't, and finally ended up getting onto the pitch. But yeah, it was an emotional day. Yeah.
And you said you went to a pub up the road, and you remember watching grandstanding there. And initially, you were told that no one had died in the fire. And then it was only when you came back to the stadium you realised the extent of it.
Well, that's right. Yeah, we all met at the top. We'd all passed on that we'd seen each other's families and etc. And I think it was only my dad that nobody had contacted. We went to the top of the road, and we met in there. And we were watching the scenes unfold, and it came across that hopefully everyone thought everyone got out. It was only an hour later we came back to the car park. I needed to go and try to find my dad, and the car was boiling. I remember that. But I remember asking a policeman, did everyone get out? And he just looked at me and he says, them who did get out, or them who could get out did. And it was only then that that it struck that there could have been a lot of deaths.
And Yorkshire TV perhaps wisely decided never to show the pictures again from that day because they were so graphic. But Lee, Stuart was here, and many people have vivid memories of that day. But you were playing elsewhere. What do you remember of that day?
Yeah, I was at Chester at the time, and we came off at half-time. I think we were leading the game. Not even sure who we were playing, but I just remember someone saying, "Oh, there's been a fire at Bradford," and you don't think anything of it. We've got the second half to play. We go out and play. We came in and we won the game 1-0, and everyone's cheering in the dressing room. Then the word came through that some people had died in the fire, and the dressing room was quiet. And then after that, it's not until you get home later on that you actually, the full extent of the tragedy came through, with 56 people dying. It was a horrendous day. But
there were some real heroes that day, Stuart. But as Lee said, there was 56 that died, but it could have been so many more. And people were, Terry Yorath was running into the stand telling the directors to get out, and many lives were saved because there were some real heroes on that day.
Yeah, I mean, the ambulance crew, the fire brigade, and everybody, the police, the surgeons and the doctors and the nurses at the hospital, everyone were trying to help each other. And as I say, it could have been a lot more.
And when you talk to people around Bradford, you realise there were physical scars on that day, but also some very deep mental ones as well. I'd imagine for you, Stuart, and those who were here, it's almost impossible to get rid of those.
Yeah, and I've never watched the fire again because I think it's something that brings back too many memories. For my dad, it was more his mental scars than his physical ones, as you say. But it was everyone knows it was a horrendous occasion, and one that was living in the memories.
Well, it was not only a day of black clouds over Bradford, but also very black memories as well. But strangely, the whole community came together, and it was quite powerful to see a city really coming together to deal with the trauma.
For days, we didn't realise how many people were dead.
All the players attended funerals if they could, and we never missed one.
We got so much of letters of support, and so many people donated to the disaster fund. And for that summer, Bradford was pretty much in focus.
A city mourned. Day by day, the stories of the injured and dead passed between a community who came together to heal its wounds.
There's a woman who lost her husband and her 2 kids, and it was a present. Why pick that day? Obviously celebrate, want to be there. Bradford had gone up. But I don't know, it's fate.
People like Stafford Higginbotham, the chairman at the time, I think he attended every one of the 56 funerals. I constantly went up to the burns unit at Bradford Royal Infirmary.
There were people with bandages on their head, on their arms, and not one of them moaned. All it was make sure we do well next season. Great, promotion's great, being champions great. And you came away thinking, how did they do that?
Bradford's doctors worked tirelessly, pioneering new techniques that would go on to be vital in skin graft surgery. But soon there was to be another unwanted memory for football.
I think it was Barry Davies's voice I heard talking about Heysel exactly 3 weeks on.
The Heysel Stadium has been a sickening and bewildering sight.
Fans rioted at the European Cup final between Liverpool and Juventus to leave more devastation.
there is for certain serious injury when a wall collapsed, and maybe worse.
Talking about deja vu, I mean, I just could not believe it. It just seemed to be such a traumatic time for football. The memories were still burning in my mind. The memories were still large and looming.
Good evening. The judge appointed to lead the inquiry into the Bradford football fire has been to the ground where more than 50 people died.
Justice Popperwell conducted an inquiry that would eventually improve the safety of football grounds worldwide.
The one good thing that came out of it is that stadia and football grounds have improved.
Most of the wooden stands, all the wooden stands really were condemned, and certainly people were stopped from smoking in grounds.
But no one could bear to overanalyse the events of May the 11th.
People never point the finger at anybody. Even the police, who in the end, I believe, knew what happened, how it happened, didn't come out with it. And I think that's right as well, because nobody deliberately started that fire. It's just something that happened.
Well, we've moved outside the stadium now to the Valley Parade Fire Memorial. You can see it here, and when you look at the 56 names on here, you can see some people as young as 11 who died in that tragedy, and members of the same family as well, some 2s and 3s from the same family. When you read those names, it makes it far more real, and you understand the scale of the tragedy. And we've joined outside by David Markham, who was a Bradford City reporter for the Telegraph and Argus at the time. David, on the community spirit side of things, what are your personal memories of the time immediately after the fire and the few weeks after that?
Well, as you can imagine, there was a pall of smoke hung around Valley Parade on the day of the fire, but it seemed that there was a cloud hanging over the city of Bradford for months and months afterwards. Everybody seemed to know someone who had either died in the fire or had been injured in the fire, or at least had been at the match, and it just affected the whole community for miles around.
And Stuart, on the day was difficult enough, but as David said, it was then months of funerals and memorial services as well, and the mourning did go on for months, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and my dad had ended up in Pinderfields, which was the most severely burnt, and I think they had 8 or 9 people in there, and I remember after it, they just wanted, a lot of them just wanted just to take the trophy in and show them as medals, and when football seemed irrelevant, a lot of them were just keeping on with the memory of actually coming back and watching Bradford in the high flight, which have not been there for 50 odd years. So, but there were lots of funerals, and it was things that you just had to do.
Lee, it's strange when you talk to the people of Bradford, because they almost feel that this is the forgotten tragedy, because 2.5 weeks later we had the Heysel disaster, which had that global reach. 4 years later was Hillsborough and the injustice felt by the fans there. It's almost as though people have slightly forgotten about what happened here.
Yeah, it is, and perhaps today is a good day to remember the people that did die, because I think John Hendry went round and spoke to some school kids and 13, 14 years of age, and not even heard about the tragedy. So I think it was probably because there was a blanket ban on the film that obviously showed the tragedy, as well as the fact that there was no one real to blame. It was an accident, and so I think people have put it to one side. They can blame someone at Heysel Stadium, and so I think that's probably one of the reasons. But I met a guy in the hotel today who I said hello to him, Bradford fan.